All right, here we are again. Uh,
Hello.
my name is David Nowell, and this is my best friend Jeff Ivy. And we want to do something a little bit different this time. A lot of ours have been focused on music and stuff like that. Just for a change of pace, we thought we might talk about our childhood and just things that we can remember, and just kind of let everybody know just little things about us. But Jeff, why don't you go ahead and start it out, and let's see what all you can remember.
Lord, I think the furthest, of course, I was born in Raleigh. I was born at, honestly, I was born, I think I was born at Rex Hospital. Andy was born at Wake Med. It might have been the other way around. But anyway, uh, born in Raleigh. I think the first place I ever lived in Raleigh was Halifax Court, which is no longer there now. It's all redeveloped and all that stuff, man. But I lived there for a few years, I do believe, and then we moved to Penny Road or Yates Mill Pond Road, which is off of Penny Road, and we lived in a real small white house, and it was right beside a trailer park, and we lived right beside Mr. Hunter, and he owned a store and everything down the road and everything, and I had a lot of good a lot of good memories out of that place. Uh, I know that house was really small, and we had a lot of dogs and a lot of cars. We had a lot of cars in the yard, and I just remember playing, man, with my cousins and stuff. It was pretty fun. And then things happened, and mom, dad split up. And I stayed with mom, and we did a lot of moving around. I think the first place we moved after that, God Almighty, man, was uh, let's see, I believe it was Dover Apartments in Raleigh. Yeah, we lived there for a little bit, and ended up living a little few places between that and when we lived at the end of I don't know the name of the street, but it was off Old Garner Road, right at the end of the street was the Tobacco Barn, which was a bar, and we lived on that street right next to it, and we lived at the very end of the street, and we lived next to I don't know if Rabbit Wood. He was our neighbor, and we lived close to a junkyard, and we lived in it was my mama's family and Punky's family, my aunt's family, Tony, and it was Punky, Tony, and Ricky and Glenda, and blah 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 blah. We lived at the end of the road, and it was a little shack, and it was like a little bitty. It was so bad. It was so small and so rickety, but we were happy. Uh, and oh, I'm see, I'm skipping places, because we lived in Nightdale. Lived at a Save. Do you remember the Savatons? The
I
trailers that had the gas station.
uh-uh,
It
I
was
don't
it
remember
was a
that.
gas station, but it was also a mobile home. It was a trailer, but there was like two or three of them. There was one in Nightdale, one in Raleigh, where my aunt Pat used to live, back in the early '70s. But we lived there for a while, and mom and my mom and my grandma ran the place and everything, and that was before we moved to the place in Garner, where Mama we stayed there for a while, and Mom had met Bobby, and then we moved to Westchester Apartments, and I started going to I was in second grade at Vandor Springs School, Vandor Springs Elementary. But when we lived in the old house, I went to Garner Elementary. And after that, we moved to Westchester, and I started going to Vandor Springs, and that's where I went my whole, second grade through fifth grade uh, time. And we went from Westchester to 108 Hillbrook Court, which is off of Woodland Road, um, and lived there for a few years. And I think it was in the 5th grade is when my mom and Bobby split up, and we sad, but we ended up moving to Forest. No, we left Hillbrook Court, and I stayed with Troy Bagwell and his mom. It was me and my mom and Andy lived over there in the apartment with her and Troy, and I stayed over there for a little bit. And finally, we went from there to Forest Hills, and that's where you and I met and got together at Forest Hills, which was like 83. We had
Oh,
mentioned this before, about
sounds
83.
sounds about right. Yeah.
But and that's when the good times started. Really, that's when my good memories, and that's when we started having fun. When
Oh
I
yeah.
became a teenager, teenage life was we had a good teenage life. We had fun, man. We really did. And stayed there for a good chunk. Um, then we moved. Mom had we had moved from Forest Hills because this is we lived there for a while because we went through to where we were going to Julian's and the deck. We started going to the teen clubs and stuff like that, And then my mom got married again, and we ended up moving to Fuquay, and I stayed with Pete for a while. Still talk to you, and stayed in touch with Tim and Troy and all them. Um, and we moved back from there, back back to Forest Hills, or it might have been. It went. Let's see. Went from Fuquay to. Oh man! It went from Fuquay back to I think Forest Hills. Then we lived at Plaza Apartments. Uh, Stayed there for a little bit. Then went back to Forest Hills. We always went back to Forest Hills Apartments.
We did
It was
we did
crazy.
we did too. We lived in like four of them too. So yeah.
Yeah. So and I don't know. I stayed there for a while. That was like in like the mid to late '80s. Stayed Forest Hills, and we moved to. I think it was we moved. We moved to. We actually moved to Wendell, where Mama started living with Sammy, and that's when I got kind of separated from everybody. For a while. But I was in '87. Um, and I hated that. I hated that shit, man. I was not in a good place at that area at that time, and because all my friends were in Garner, I didn't have a car, and nobody would really come out and hang with me, um, doing their own thing. And then that's when I moved back to Garner, back to Westchester, and stayed with my brother Andy. He had just got married, and that was in '88. And then I moved in with you and roommated with you for a while. Then things got really good after that. Things got better. That's when, you know, uh, I was out on my own and staying with you, and started working. That was in '88. I started working with my dad in Precision Walls. I was 19, and that's when my grown up life began, I guess. And let's see, and then I left from staying with you. Uh, let's see, what did I do? I went from staying with you, and I lived in Raleigh for a second, and I moved in with Mama for a second, and ended up going to Woodridge Apartments, which is right there below Garner High School. Stayed there from like 90 to 91, the end of 91. And I ended up living with my dad after that. I moved around quite a bit, man.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and and dated this girl named Kelly for about a year while I was living with my dad, and uh, then I moved from where my dad lived to living with my mom. This was like in this was this was 94, about 90. We moved to Cedar Lane, 103 Cedar Lane with my mom, and stayed there
How do you
from like
remember all you?
I don't know. I
I
don't know.
can no longer claim that I have the best memory
I
because
know.
how you can remember addresses
Yeah.
and you can remember all these places, man. When I take my turn, it's going to be a lot of, well, I think I lived here, but
Yeah.
but go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. I hate to interrupt you. I
No,
can't believe you're
we
spitting out addresses.
ended up moving into a duplex in 103 Cedar Lane with my mom and stayed there from like 94 to, good God, it was like 97, man. She had moved out and I had took over the place, had a few roommates, one being my, a guy named Mike Barker, and I had Tim Easley stayed with me. Well, no, I think Tim stayed there for a brief period of time. And then my brother moved in, and after I had lived there for a while, I moved in. I moved out and moved with Walter, and stayed with him for a spell, you know. And then I moved from Walter's house to a guy named Gabriel Pettit. I moved in to they moved into his double wide with him, and that's when I met my wife, my ex-wife, Reagan, and we stayed there for a while. Then she got pregnant, and we moved out. And we did. When she got pregnant, we had Darren and stayed there for a spell with Gabe, still with Darren after Darren was born and everything. And then we moved out because Gabe was getting married, and we found a house off Old Drugstore Road. Uh, and I can't remember the name of the neighborhood, if you can believe that. But anyway, it was the only neighborhood there at the time, and we stayed there till Darren was like until we had Darren was there, and then Willie was born in 2003. Darren was born in 1999. Willie was born in 2003, and we stayed there for a while. And then 2006, I left. Things just didn't work out, and I left and ended up living with my mom for a spell. Uh, Lived with her for a spell, and then I lived with my aunt. I lived in my aunt's trailer, which was off a 70 highway. It's a lot of stuff, man. Um, I can't believe I'm remembering all of it. And then I got involved with this girl, uh, and we moved to Franklinton, and I stayed with her for 5 years, which was a very dark period. And I had to get my kids every weekend, and we stayed broke, and it was a bad deal. Then me and her split up, and I went to live with my stepdad, Sammy, stayed with him for a while. Then I was I met Laurel. I had got involved with her and started living with her, and I've been with her ever since, man. And that was in 2013 when me and her got together, and we've been together ever since, man. And life has been peachy. Everything's been good, man. It's been a great. We've been together over 10 years, man, and it's everything that I've ever wanted, and I'm sure she feels the same way. It was meant to be, and been here ever since. And I'm talking to you from my little, my bonus room upstairs in the house we live in, man. And we've been living here, and good God, we lived South Creek for a couple of years, and then we moved here to Stevens Oaks in Garner, and we've been here since 2015, and We're going to be here for a while. And then we'll retire and probably move to the beach or live close to the sound or whatever. That's what our plan is. And have ourselves a boat. And whenever we feel like it, we'll go on the boat and watch the sunrise and watch the sunset. That's the plan anyway. I lost my life, so she's my life, and that's pretty much in a nutshell my journey on this earth thus far. And like I said, music's always been a part of my life. I've been in and out of bands like crazy, and still continuing to do so. With the voodoo thing and everything, and I don't know, but that's mainly the best I can tell you about where I began and how I got here. So now it's your turn, David.
Well, I am not going to be able to remember dates and addresses like you, but I'll give the basic gist.
But you remember things that I don't. I'm like, where the hell did he get that from?
Well,
anyway, go ahead.
What's funny is I can remember exact words to conversations that happened in like the 80s.
Oh, good God, yeah.
And it's just, I don't know why. It's just like certain things stamp into my brain. But I think I was born in Raleigh too. And I think I was born at Wake Med, even though you'd have to ask Mama.
Okay.
But the earliest I remember, it was me and Mama and Buck and Denise and Wendy. I remember us living in Clayton. That's the first place I remember. And we might have lived somewhere before then, but I don't remember it.
Yeah.
But we lived in two different places in Clayton, and we moved, I believe, when I was either in first or second grade. We moved to Raleigh, but I just remember Clayton, just Wendy, Denise, and Buck. They were still little kids. Buck was a scary kid, but he was still a little kid. I can remember, that's where he tied me up to the clothesline post and put clothespins on my lips and on my ears and started putting firewood at my feet. So
you witch.
So yeah. But it was fun. I remember just doing stuff with Wendy and Denise. I don't remember having a lot of friends because I've always been so shy and stuff. So a lot of what I did was with them, and it was whatever they wanted to do, which was girl stuff. So there were a lot of playing with paper dolls, things like that. But it was just fun. They, I think that they didn't see me as a little brother as much as they did a real life baby doll. So, but then we moved to Raleigh, and I think the first place we may have moved when we moved to Raleigh, we moved to my my grandmother's house near South Saunders Street, off of that. And we lived, it was us, and it was my mom's sister-in-law, Vicky, and her son. We lived there.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And it was a big house, big old house. Love that house to this day. I can still remember everything about that house. It was so fun. It had an apple tree in the backyard, and I would just go back there and just eat apples nonstop.
Oh, shit.
But the worst memory was we had a fire there. And a fire burned the whole kitchen, and it burned up Wendy's clothes. But other than that, we were unscathed. So then I think we moved to, and I get them confused. I think we moved to Horseshoe Trailer Park first.
Yeah.
And over on the road with the Speedway.
Old Stage.
There you go.
No, Simpkins Road.
And then I believe we moved to All Star Trailer Park, and that's where, even though he don't want me telling it, Buck about got us thrown out of the park because he was so damn crazy. Of course, Wendy and Denise was too. I always tell people all the parties we had, they were nothing. I went to better parties when I was 5 and 6 years old than I did when I was 18. Because they would throw some crazy parties.
And a lot of things.
And then let's see, I was going to Garner schools while I was in all those places. Somehow Mama always got me to Garner schools. So even when I was living off South Saunders Street, I went to Fred A. Smith
Yeah.
And then eventually we moved. I want to say Forest Hills Apartments was the first place we lived in Garner.
Yeah.
And that's where I met you. And at first, it was one of those Bonnie and Mama wanted me and you to be friends. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I was so quiet and nerdy then that I could just tell you were like, wait a minute, what is this little kid doing here? But eventually, we made friends, and
Oh yeah.
we had just the coolest people there.
Yeah.
We had so much fun. We were a bunch of kids, but it's like we never did anything super, super troublesome. We just had fun. I'm trying to see. Hang on.
Yeah. Sort of a yeah. There's a camaraderie, there's a brotherhood. We had our little clique. Oh yeah.
There's me and you. This is
Yeah.
84.
Me and
You and
Tim on top of a dumpster.
yeah, that's where we played, was at dumpsters. And that was a little fuzzy, but that's Troy Bagwell and Boyd Sauls.
Boy,
They were
so
there. We just had so much fun. Well, we were little boys that would like to watch wrestling, so we would
David and his legs
beat the hell out of each other. And then you got,
squeeze the poop out of you. Oh, there's my agility.
yeah,
Yes, my yeah.
of course, there's you killing Tim because, well,
Yeah.
that's what you do then. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, we had so much fun there. But for whatever reason, just like you, we were just moving constantly. But for some reason, we would always
Come back.
move out and then come back to Forest Hills.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. It's between 3 and 5 different apartments we lived in Forest
Good.
Hills.
Together. Yeah. 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 Okay.
And let's see. I mean, I know we moved back to Horseshoe once or twice.
Oh, did you?
What was the name of the apartments where was it the one that was in front of Del Eason? What was the name of those
That,
apartments?
that was Plaza.
Plaza. We moved to Plaza, but we always just kept coming back to Forest
Forest Hill.
Hills.
Yeah.
Then one of the worst times, and I believe this was when I was at is it North Garner or East Garner?
I want to say
Which one's lower? Is it East Garner? Is the middle
East
school?
Garner's lower. East Garner's
Okay.
sixth and seventh grade.
Okay. When we lived in
North
East
Garner's
Garner,
eighth and
I moved out on Rock Quarry Road
yeah.
and moved away from all my friends. And I didn't have any friends out there. The one person who used to talk to me on the bus as much as she could was Tia Myatt. She was awesome. Just to this day, one of the nicest people I've
Oh yeah,
ever
she
met.
is, man. She's cool.
But yeah, living out there was just terrible. And then we finally moved back to Forest Hills,
Yeah.
and then I got a girlfriend, and I wasn't hanging around everybody quite as much. And you were still living there, but I was always gone.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then I went to college up at Appalachian State, and I was there 6 years, but I didn't get my doctorate. I just,
Oh yeah, man. I think I went there maybe a couple of times.
yeah, you went up there a couple times.
Yeah.
And then after that, moved back to Garner, and I was living with Mama in the trailer park. What's the name?
God, that was off of 1010 Highway, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's a trailer park anymore, but it's been so long, maybe I'm wrong about that.
I think it's still there.
But I stayed there for a year before me and Amy got married. And then I moved to Bessemer City, and I stayed there for a little bit
Bessemer
less than a
City.
year.
Yeah.
And then me and Amy finally saved up enough money to get a house. So we moved to Charlotte. And we were in Charlotte probably maybe 5, 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
And then when she
I
got
think I went that I think I went to that house one time.
one time, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a nice house. I love that house.
Maybe.
And then when Amy got pregnant with Cody, we already had Kyle and Cameron,
Wow.
and we knew we were going to need another bedroom. So we ended up moving to South Carolina then, and we've been
Right.
here since Cody was. I don't even think he was a year old. So we've been here for 16
And
years.
Carowinds was the neighboring amusement park.
Yes, always close to Carowinds, and
Yeah.
my whole family comes down usually once a year and comes and stays with us, which is great because it's been so hard to go back to Garner.
Yeah.
Kyle doing band, there was a lot of weekends we couldn't go, and then once he was done with band, then you got them working, and it's tough, but try to get to Garner whenever possible.
Oh yeah.
I know one of the things we talked about and we thought might be fun to talk about. I don't know, maybe people get bored with it, but we talked about how we were going to talk about when we were little. What did we want to do when we were little?
What was our
Because
what was think about
as
doing when we grew up?
yeah, when we grew because I never wanted to be working for the post office, but hey, but go ahead. What
I always my first real want, what I wanted to do was be a train engineer because I loved trains back when I was little. I used to draw trains. I would always love being at a railroad crossing and a train would go by, man. I'd be like, oh, and it always happened. It would happen a lot when we were leaving my grandma's in Benson when my mom and my dad were together. We'd always go to the railroad crossing. There'd be a train, man. I'd be like, I'd be loving it, man. And ever since then, I would see a train, man. I'd just be fascinated, and that's what I wanted. That's one of the things I wanted to be. And then I started drawing, and I would draw a lot of. I started drawing buildings and city skylines and stuff like that. My own little creations,
yeah,
and the thoughts of being an architect uh, crossed my mind, and I wanted to do that. Then, as I was going to school, and I got in a draft and everything, and I was thinking, this ain't. I don't like this shit. So I don't know if I want to do that, And then those are the only two things I kind of. And then, of course, being in a band, singing and all that. I wanted to
yeah,
be in a successful rock and roll band, and off and on, it was things happen, But I basically just ended up being a finisher. I mean, finishing drywall,
yeah,
working with the mud and all that stuff, And I've been a foreman. I've been a foreman for Sears Contract Company that's out of Raleigh. I've been with them since 1999. But I worked with Precision Walls from 88 to 99. And so I've been in 30 plus years of doing drywall. But like I said, I've been with Sears for 24 years almost. Well, actually, it has been 24 years. So next year will be 25 years. And can't complain, man. It's been a great company. And, I'm going to retire there, I guess,
yeah,
because I don't see myself trying to venture off and do something different. It's kind of
yeah,
too late in the game. I'm 54 and I have no aspirations of changing and wanting to do something different, because I know just like the back of my hand, it's nothing to me.
yeah,
Yeah. And I'm pretty successful at it, so knock on wood. But so far it's been going really good.
yeah,
And that's basically what I turned out doing. But I wanted to be a train engineer or an architect. That's what I wanted to do.
yeah. I remember you drawing stuff.
Oh man.
I have no artistic ability at all. So anybody that can draw, I'm just like, wow, that's a straight line. I can't do that.
Yeah. Just give me a ruler and a pencil and some typing paper, man. That's all I needed,
Yeah,
and my imagination. 'Cause that's what it's mainly about. It's just envisioning things in my head and writing them and drawing them on the paper, And once I got wind of like perspective, like one point perspective and
yeah,
2 point or 3 point, man, it was crazy then. So I was thinking, oh, this line goes to that dot, and this goes to that dot, and everything I draw on the building is going to go to those dots, and it just always it fascinated me.
yeah,
So I don't know, man. It was just cool. And and I always wanted to be a
Yeah.
successful guitar player too.
Yeah.
And I still tinker with that. I'm thankful that I can come up here and turn on my amp. And I would turn it on now and play, but for some reason it's not audible
Well,
on this shit.
somebody told me that there's something in Zoom where it specifically does your voice so that background noise
Oh,
won't bleed into it. And for some reason, because you've seen me, I've taken it
that's
and put it right on
stupid.
my speaker. I know.
Yeah,
Um, I was
gotcha.
gonna
Go ahead, man.
when I
You
was
do your
growing
thing.
when I was growing up early on, all I wanted to do was sports. When I was little, I wanted to be the Redskins quarterback. I wanted to be the small forward for the Tar Heels of North Carolina, and probably play Major League Baseball.
Oh yeah.
Love
Oh man.
sports.
Yeah.
And then other than that, I wanted to be in Kiss. I didn't think of it as being a musician. I just wanted to be in Kiss because when I saw them, I thought they were so cool. And when Peter left and they brought in Eric Carr, I loved Eric Carr because I was like, wait a minute, somebody else can be in Kiss other than the original four. So I wanted to be in Kiss. Um, and then I saw David Lee Roth, and then I wanted to be a singer. We
Wow.
talked about that.
Yeah.
And then the only real jobs I ever wanted, Wendy went and got her degree in accounting. And I remember her doing accounting at the house and doing homework at the house. And because of the way I love numbers, I remember looking at it and I was like, I like this. This is numbers. Because numbers make sense to me. So I wanted to be an accountant. So went to App State and I got my accounting degree.
ASU.
Uh, but what I found was if you're not going to be a CPA, you're not going to quite make the money I was hoping to make. And by the time I finished college, because it took me so long because I was working while I was going, I did not want to study for CPA. So, um, my wife, Amy, her family worked for the post office. And they were like, well, you should go in there and, take the test and see if you can get hired. And we got hired. And both of us, because Amy's got an accounting degree too, we both wanted to work in their accounting department, but that went away and they basically did it with outside people. So I just kind of stayed there. And, like you said, I've almost got 27 years in, so
Oh yeah. In there. Wow.
there ain't no leaving now. Just
No.
trying to finish it up. But I don't know.
God, man.
I always, I complain about the place, but it it raised my kids and gave them
And
a
you're
home
used
and
to it.
all that
It's
stuff.
nothing. It's nothing
Oh
to
yeah.
go in there and work.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, occasionally I have to pre-take some Tylenol
Oh
for the
yeah.
headache I know is coming, but that's about it.
Yeah. Because it's
Um,
loud in there, man. When I talk to you on the phone, man, it's like, good God,
yeah.
man.
Oh yeah.
It's like I'm yelling, and I don't have to yell, but I yell because it's like he ain't gonna ever hear me talk,
How do you
you
know?
know.
You got driving Tourette's.
Oh,
You're like, well,
oh,
today,
that's a
Dave, I
whole
was
nother
working at the
story.
you son of a mother.
Yeah, that's a
How
whole
can
nother
you?
story,
And I'm
man.
like,
Yeah,
and then you go right back into the sentence and you're still talking. And I'm
yeah,
just sitting there
yeah.
and it's pretty damn funny. One day I'm gonna tape you when you do that, and we're gonna play that just so people can hear how you lose your damn mind.
I do, man. If there's anger in me, it's going to be behind the wheel
Yeah.
going while I'm going home from work or whatever. It's usually that's when the angry Jeff comes out, and the explicits come out
Yeah.
really bad, and the wishes of peril
Death,
amongst other drivers.
maiming,
Yeah, just it's
venereal
like
diseases.
yeah. Uh, and I would always say to myself, man, I wish I had like a forklift. I got the two
Oh yeah.
forklifts, and I can go in front, I can go behind the car and just flip them
Flip
off the
them.
road, get out of my
Yeah.
way, you
Yeah.
know. And
That's why you should never have a gun in your car.
oh no, that's what Laurel says too. Laurel says no, Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, wouldn't be a good thing. It would not result in anything good because people are crazy, Dave. You
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
people are crazy. Um, but you got to do what you got to do. It's a crazy world. And we
Well,
talk about that all the time too, how crazy the world is. But it is what it is, and we just gotta contrive. We just gotta live in it and do the
yeah.
best we can. You know,
Well,
make sure our own's good.
oh yeah. Well, we have about a minute left.
About a minute left. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody cares or not about this one because
Oh,
if you're tuning in for music, sorry, but we just decided to kind of go down this trail, and Lord only knows where we'll go next week. But
and if anybody from Garner is watching, we are in the process of planning the 35-year reunion for Garner next year. Um, I think we'll probably, I don't know exactly when we'll have it, but it'll probably in the springtime, I guess.
yeah,
But we're in the midst of we're in the process of getting together and discussing things about where we're going to have it and all that stuff. So anyway,
yeah.
and like I
Well,
told you, as soon as I hear a solid date, I'll let you know.
yeah,
And
we'll put it on here, and
oh,
hopefully.
most definitely,
But also, if you're from Garner and you're watching this, if there's something you want to talk about, you can get on here with us or tell us what you want us
please,
to talk about. If you want us
please,
to tell memories about you,
yeah,
please ask.
yeah, man. Yeah,
But
man. We definitely would love to get people's input and people's uh contribution.
yeah, well, I think this is it. We're about to get cut off. So
This